Okay, class this week is sponsored by a number of people of the first minyan, Leilu Nishmas Yeshua Elio Moshe ben Yonatan Elias Son Chaim. Nisham should have an aliyah.
Amen.
So the class is in his mitzchus. Okay, Torah or Megillah Esther, page Sadik Aleph. Like 12 lines in the top. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 lines in the top. Okay, the last thing the Alter Rebbe is explaining that Esther, because her Nechia Haster Aster comes from a very deep concealment, shows it comes from a very lofty level. Same thing, Halacha comes into Gashmistika things, which shows that it originates in a very, very lofty place. So therefore, even when Mashiach comes, not Megillah Esther, not Halacha is going to become bottled. Why? Because the revelation is so great, even then it will be shining. See, and the last thing we were speaking about, you know, when you overflow something, it goes to waste, but it shows that it comes from a really full, place. And he said, "V'chei Megillah Esther." Same thing with Megillah Esther. Agam shanes shepurim. Even though the Ness of Purim seemingly is a miracle, as we learned yesterday, seemingly enclosed in nature, there was a king, a husband, whatever. The Adrabah from that, on the contrary, Mizem, moving from the fact that it's a miracle in nature, moving it's understood that this revelation from above, comes from a very lofty level. Like we said, in order to combine two opposites, miracle and nature, it has to come from a level which is above both. Commercial or avuka, like he said before, the analogy of the avuka, the torch, or chavish shalayam le'asheveres b'menal kol gedesa luchutz, that it overflows. L'chein ksiv, therefore it says, what's the source of what the Yerushalmi says that Purim will never become nullified? Because it says in the Megillah, "V'meya Purim ha'ela lo yavru mitecha Yehudim." It says it will never stop from the Yidden. By the way, you have a similar thing with Chanukah, by the way, because at the beginning of Baal Yischa, Rashi says that Aaron felt bad. All the Nesiim brought gifts to the Mishkan. Well, you know, the Kabbanis we read on Chanukah, and Aaron didn't bring anything. So Hashem said, you're going to kindle the Menorah. Okay? And it says in the Medrash, the expression that the Kabbanis are going to stop, but the Menorah will never stop. So everybody asked, but there was no Beis HaMikdash, there was no more the Menorah. So the answer is, it means Chanukah. Which means the uniqueness of Chanukah is just like the Korbanos stopped. There's no Beis HaMikdash, there's no Korbanos. But the Menorah never stopped because you have Chanukah, which is, again, the same thing. Even in Golus, Chanukah is shining. In order to bring down such a great Gilui, it never nullified as a ray of the sun in the sun. That's why the people said by Mashas Matan Torah, Nasa v'nishma. What did they put him as an extension of Matan Torah? Why? Because by Matan Torah we know the Megillah says Kimu v'kiblu ha'Yehudim. Okay, the Jews kept and they already and fulfilled and accepted. The order should be accepted and fulfilled. So it says, Kimu Mashi Kiblu Kvar, meaning that the Eden started keeping, by Matan Torah, the Gemara says like this, Hashem held the mountain over the head and said, do or die. Either accept it or this is your burial plot. So the Jews said, Nasa v'nishma. So Rava says in the Gemara Megillah, Shabbos, from here is a good excuse. We were forced, coerced to keep Torah. We never accepted it willingly. You forced us. So the Gemara said, in the days of Purim, the Jews re-accepted the Torah willingly. That's what it says. Kimu v'kiblu. They were keeping it already, but now v'kiblu, they accepted it willingly, what began in Matan Torah. So the bottom line is, Purim is the culmination, the finalization, the finishing of Matan Torah. So this Ness of Purim really originated already at the time of Matan Torah. So how do you get such a gili of Purim, Megillas Esther, that even when there's a great, massive revelation of godliness by Mashiach, it's still going to be shining, right? Not the ray of the sun in the sun, because the Yidden said Nasiv and Nishma, which is in Yim Bittul Arotzin, Lebal Arotzin, which is the bittul of the will, not to the will of the person, but the Bal Arotzin Atzmei. In other words, like this. Chassidus explains a lot. There's bittul to the Rotzin, and there's the bittul to the Bal Harotzin. In other words, like this. If I ask you, you would do me a favor, under normal circumstance, I say to you, will you do me a favor? She said, yeah, what do you want me to do? And I tell you what to do. So, you might say no. Okay? And if you do it, you're not bottled to me because you're only doing what I'm asking you to do on this particular thing. You're not going to listen, just blanket, whatever you want, I'll do. Right? You say, can you do me a favor? First you want to hear what the favor is. You can say yes or no. That doesn't mean yes means a blanket for whatever he wants you're going to do. There's a bittul to Bal Harotzin. Bal Harotzin means I'm not bottled to the will you want. I'm bottled to you. To your essence. Whatever you want, that's what I'm going to do. So Chassidus explains, normally people do things that are bittul to the Rotzin, to the will of the person, what he wants, yes or no. Bittul of Bal Harotzin means Nasa v'nishma. We're going to do it. Then you tell us what you want, but the premise is we're going to do it. That bittul, not to the Rotzin, but to the Bal Harotzin, that is the bittul, that's the keli for the gilui of Purim, that's so high that it's even the ray won't be outshined by the essence. That's how deep it is. And that's the level of Kesem Malchus. What did he say in the pasuk? Yevila vush Malchus v'Kesem Malchus v'Neshenitin Kesem Malchus b'Reishim. Right? So he's explaining the whole pasuk. According to Chassidus, it's the garments and the horse, the bittul, the chariot, and and then he says the Kesem Malchus. What's the Kesem? It's on top of the head. Kitayag mitzvahs de'iraisa, the 613 biblical. V'zayim mitzvahs the Rabbanan, 7 rabbinic mitzvahs. Hem b'gematria tarach is b'gematria Kesem. Tov reish chav. 613 and 7 is 620. 620 is the gematria Kesem. Chav tov reish, which is in other languages called tarach. The 14 letters, which it says is tarach amudei or shebekesed. It's the 620 revelations of Kesed, just like Amud, Hamachabim, Mailu, Mato, just like what does a pillar do? You have a pillar in a building. What's the purpose of a pillar? It connects the ceiling with the floor. What does a ladder do? It connects the roof with the floor. Right? So what do mitzvahs do? The 620 mitzvahs, because 7 are rabbinic, 620 mitzvahs are the amudim, the pillars that connect us, earth, with heaven, with Hashem. In other words, why is there 620 mitzvahs? Because there's 620 ways that we are connecting ourselves to Hashem. 248 positive, plus the 7 rabbinic, which are all positive mitzvahs. And then you have the rabbinic mitzvahs, the negative mitzvahs. Kacham shochas ha-Torah va-mitzvahs. The same thing, Torah mitzvahs, kamimokim elyin ma'id, mi'erin tzav baruch hu mamish. What is a pillar? A pillar connects the highest places with the lowest places. So what does Torah mitzvahs do? They connect the highest places of Kedusha, which is this low world. So this is what Haman's really saying. This is, by the way, this quote is Haman. Who's saying it Haman? Haman is the ultimate level of Klippa, Amalek. And Haman is saying Tachashverosh to the Melech, which means Hashem. A Melech in the Megillah is Hashem. So Haman is saying to the Melech, yeah, what is Purim all about? They should bring Levush Malchus, the Levush of Mitzvahs. And V'sus, the Bittul Sherochav Olav HaMelech, which is the Bittul to the king. And then the Keser Malchus, not only that, they have the Mitzvahs of Keser, which is, by the way, like we said, the Mesiras Nefesh of Nasav and Ishma. Again, what does Mesiras Nefesh mean? Giving up your will. The ultimate submission is not when I'm bottled to your will, but when I'm bottled to you, to the Baal HaRatzon. So by Matan Torah, there was the bittul to the Baal HaRatzon, Nasav and Ishma. What happened in Purim's time? In Purim time, they have Mesiras Nefesh a whole year. That means in every aspect they were bottled to the Baal HaRatzon. That's why Purim is mamshech, a level of kedusha, which is super, super great.
Is it worse than Purim?
It's a different. They're all the same. It's a different. Even klipa, you got a pari klipa, you got a homik klipa, you got a loven klipa, bilam klipa, kairach klipa, all different levels of klipa.
But the same way that Moshe Rabbeinu was in the room with Pharaoh and Mordechai in one area with Maamar, Mashiach is going to be dealing.
He can be with us. I don't know if what's worse, home and power or else, yeah.
It's going to be the same way. It's like fighting Klipa, correct?
Yeah. In Atat Tetzava, which is given out these days, Purim Cotton, made Today's Chav Zayin Oder. 32 years ago, the Rabbi had a stroke. The first masses. 2 years later, Chav Zayin Oder, he had the real second stroke that he became brain dead. But today, Chav Zayin Oder, 32 years ago, the Rabbi had the stroke by the oil that led to eventually Gimel Tammuz. But right before that, the Rebbe gave out this contrast in Kibbutz Yehudim. And over there he says that the Rebbe of every generation gives the generation what that generation needs. So he says, and Moshe Rabbeinu was one level, and Mordechai was another level of Mesiras Nefesh. And then the Rebbe said, our generation, the Mesiras Nefesh is complacency of Golus. Right? So each Rebbe, Mordechai in his time, Moshe Rabbeinu in his time, the Rebbe in our time, they're giving the generation to internalize, the shepherd of faith, not faithful shepherd. He feeds the Jews with the munah. That level is in every generation different. So every Rebbe is the same Moshe Rabbeinu, but the function is different because the generation needs something different.
The nature of Klipa also changes.
The nature of Klippa changes. There wasn't Klippa called cars, and there wasn't a Klippa called cell phones, and there wasn't a Klippa called internet, and there wasn't a lot of Klippas of China. Whatever, going to China, whatever. There's a lot of different Klippas. But based on the Klippa of the generation, in other words, to paraphrase it, based on the illness of the generation, the medication has to change. Good.
But the same way that Moshe Rabbeinu faced one individual in one room, Chochmah Masilut, with the lowest level of Klipa, and Mordechai with Haman, highest and lowest. Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be one individual? And Moshiach is the...
It's called Moshe Rabbeinu Mashiach. Okay, I'll call Beis. These two levels of Levush Malchus and Keser Malchus still need the source Asherochav Olav HaMelech. Still need Levush Malchus, he said, is lofty levels of mitzvahs, right? That are so great they come into Gashmis, which means they originate in a very, very super high place. And then you have the level of Keser Malchus. So he said, but it still needs the source Asherochav Olav HaMelech. Okay, because after you do all these things to the person, then you have to put him on the horse and take him through the city, right? By Matan Torah, the pasuk concerning Matan Torah, it says that you should ride tirkav al susecha. You're going to ride on the horse, your rider. But Inyan Bezai, he's going to explain what it means. But he says the Inyan is Kini Amir Azal. The Gemara says the Gemara goes through Hashem's daily schedule. It's interesting. Gemara says, what does Hashem do all day? I mean, there's another Gemara, a queen asked one of the Tanoim of the Mishnah, now that Hashem finished creating the world, what does he do all day? So he said, he makes shidduchim. So he says, what? That takes 10 minutes. What does it take a big deal to make shidduchim? So he said, yeah, anyway, whatever. So the Gemara says like this: the Gimel shows b'shein shalyim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yeshiv v'zana sa'ilim. Hashem Pashat supports the world. You know, then he learns Torah, then whatever. Ubalayla, and what does Hashem do at night? Reich v'al kruv kal shalai. He rides on this like eagle or whatever. The shot chai alfei almin. And Hashem rides in 18,000 worlds. It takes a tour, 18,000 worlds. He's going to explain what does that mean. Obviously, we're not talking about physical worlds over here. Okay, so he says like this. It's like the explanation of this in Itikno Chazal. Chai ben the Chacham instituted 18 brachas of the Shemona Esrei neged Chai Chuyusha b'Shedra. Okay, corresponding with the second 18 vertebrae in the spine. Like, what's the connection between the two? In other words, the Tanchik Knesset Agdela, when they instituted Shemona Esrei, as it's called, Shemona Esrei is 18. So why did they call it Shemona Esrei? Because it's 18 brachas. Later on, there's Tanchik Knesset Agdela, the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash. Before that, they didn't have Sed Davening. Then, in the days of Ram Gamliel, there were a lot of apikursim and snitchers. So Rav Gamliel asked who can set up who can create another bracha. So Shmuel HaKatan was one of the Talmidim Rabbi Gamliel. Shmuel HaKatan instituted the bracha v'lam Hashinim. So even though now there's 19 brachas in the Shemona Esrei, but really it's originally 18. So it says the Gemara says that Hashem the Anshe Knesset instituted 18 brachas corresponding with this 18 vertebrae in the spine. Don't ask me. He said, but like what's the connection between the two? Wow. To be continued.